In this 25th anniversary year of September 11th, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation is honoring decades of memory, service, and sacrifice. Through its Steel Across America tour, the foundation brings an original World Trade Center steel beam to communities across the country as a symbol of sacrifice. To honor the 343 FDNY heroes lost on 9/11, Tunnel to Towers is delivering 343 mortgage-free homes and continuing efforts to end veteran homelessness. Donate $11 monthly and amplify your impact with a car or land donation at T2T.org.
He's at war with woke.
Joe Concha
thinks liberals are a joke.
Joe Concha.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
All right, everybody, on this Tuesday night, just got in from Boca Raton, Florida, 80, sunny, except I looked at what the weather was like here in Jersey, New York, in the East and Northeast in general. It was basically the same. You go away, you think you got it all figured out, and then the weather is the same in Florida as it is here. So a bit of irony, but Boca's beautiful. If you ever want to go to wow, what a town. There is not one unattractive person at the hotel I stayed at, the Boca Raton Hotel. I'm serious. It was insane, at least on the female side. Anyway, and my wife said that, so it's not even like me saying that, so don't think I'm some creepy guy checking out other chicks while I'm married. Anyway, the point is, people, a lot to talk about as far as the Iran war. Dow Jones up more than 1,100 points today, based on Trump's comments that a deal may be close with Iran and or this war is probably going to be over in 2 to 3 weeks. Anyway, when the other side basically isn't firing back, yeah, it's not much of a war at this point. And the Strait of Hormuz, there was increased traffic noticeably through that one bottleneck that seemed to have so many problems. So if that can get solved and oil can start flowing and shipping can start flowing again, well, boy, you're going to see many more days like we saw from the Dow Jones today and gas prices start to go down in a hurry. But I want to start off first, folks, with Tiger Woods. He has now pleaded not guilty to DUI charges connected with another rollover crash in Florida last week, which it's stunning and it's not, right? I guess because Tiger's been down this road, pun intended, on several occasions. But anyway, hello, everybody. I'm hearing music, and boy, that's loud. Thank you. I believe that was the Crows, something Crows. Counting Crows? No, not Crowning Crows. Oh, man, they were big in the 1990s. The Black Crows. Thank you very much for that. Not quite sure why that cranked in the middle of nowhere, but we have little gremlins that come out at this time of night from time to time, so we're just going to roll with it. Anyway, Tiger, he pleading not guilty, and the thing is that, yeah, he blew triple zeros, didn't have any alcohol in his system, but he did have 2 hydrocodone pills stashed in his pocket. And police said that he looked groggy. He wasn't exactly following directions the way he should while they were doing certain tests on him, right? And when asked, according to one report here, I'm reading the New York Post. The golfer allegedly told arresting officers that he had popped several pills earlier that morning. I had a few. He allegedly replied when questioned if taken any medication or if he had taken any medication prior to the accident. The golfing phenomenon was reportedly, again, we don't have confirmation on this, but lethargic and slow, dilated pupils, bloodshot and glassy eyes. Remember, this was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. All right, in Jupiter, Florida, not too much different from Boca Raton in terms of like it's a sleepy little town near the water, and he hit another car from behind, and somehow the car turned over. I mean, again, you have to be pretty screwed up in Florida on these roads where everybody's really taking their time, and there ain't a lot of traffic outside of the highways for this to happen. So He now says that he's not going to play in the Masters. Duh. It absolutely could not do that. That would be an absolute circus show if Tiger ended up going to Augusta. It would be anyway, I guess, because he hasn't played in a while due to other accidents and other problems that he has had as a result of driving and cars turning over. But now at 50 years old and all these surgeries and apparently on painkillers, you have to wonder, like, will this guy ever play golf again? And even if he does, I mean, can he be competitive? A, age, B, all these injuries, knee, back, so on. Ultimately, Woods was charged with driving under the influence, with property damage, and refusing a lawful test. So now he's waiving his arraignment and has demanded a jury trial for his latest DUI bust, and that will take place later next month, which is already here, basically, April 26th. And this will be very interesting to see how this goes, because remember, in 2017, he was busted for driving under the influence. He was found asleep behind the wheel with the engine running, right blinker on, 2 flat tires, and light damage to the driver's side. Tests showed that he had, at that time, Vicodin, Xanax, Ambien, and THC, the active ingredient in marijuana, in his system at the time. All of those pills. That's 5 different pills. I mean, that's just, wow. That's somebody who clearly has a problem. And here we are, 2017, 9 years later. Again, big problems. And in 2021, remember, he had a near-death experience. He was in a high-speed, single-car collision in L.A., rolled down a mountain, basically, fractured multiple bones in his legs, and he needed immediate surgery. I don't believe he was tested for that, however, because I think he was so injured, and it was so early in the morning, like 8 a.m., and there wasn't another car involved, that maybe somebody just thought not to test him because they had to get him to a hospital right away. But either way, this is clearly a pattern, and it just makes you wonder again, if Tiger had a normal life. In other words, his dad really, really pushed him to play golf. You watch any documentary on Tiger Woods and Earl Woods, his father, and he didn't have a normal childhood. He's just out there playing 36, 48 holes every day, 54 holes even. And after a while, you're like, okay, maybe he didn't have a normal childhood. I don't want to do the whole childhood thing, and now it affects the 50-year-old guy. But you have to wonder, you know, with Tiger Woods with more than $1 billion and one of the great golfers of all time, why he would need to go down this road. You could say, well, maybe just because of all these surgeries, he's in such pain, he started taking painkillers. And this seems to be the most logical explanation, that when, and I think it happened with Brett Favre. I'll have to look that up, but I'm pretty sure there was a Jet quarterback, it was Favre, who also was on painkillers, because you play in the NFL, and especially a guy like Favre got hit a lot. You start taking these things, and they can be very addictive, and then before you know it, they're part of your daily existence. And that appears to be the case here with Tiger Woods, which, again, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, slow day in Jupiter, and this is what he had on him. We don't know what was in his system, but in the end, he has to get the help that he needs, spend more time with his family, and just get into some sort of rehab and just admit that you have a problem. Instead, by going down this road of not guilty, going to hire, obviously, some very high-powered lawyers, including Douglas Duncan. That's who represented Woods in 2017 during that DUI battle. So it appears to be some denial here, maybe saving face, PR, but nobody believes that Tiger Woods was fine, and he just happened to have 2 hydrocodone pills in his pocket. And you know, he said he took some earlier that day, but then if you did, everybody's made this point, but it's a very obvious one. When you're worth Tiger Woods' money, you could hire a guy named Cheeves to be your driver and take you where you need to go, or call an Uber X, XL. Those are the good ones. Like, you'd afford this stuff. So just do that if you have to be on these painkillers, I guess, for all this pain you're under. But again, you probably shouldn't be taking these things on a daily basis well after you've had surgery. And he has been playing some golf lately, like that virtual golf that they have on ESPN, which isn't the same as playing regular golf in the sense that you don't have to walk 18 holes over 4 days. But still, again, you think about where Tiger Woods would be if he played it straight, led a straight life. Would he have surpassed Jack Nicklaus for the most majors of all time? Yeah, probably. I think he's only 4 behind now at this point. Not going to catch him, clearly. And you think of Tiger, you think of Mike Tyson, right? Same deal. As somebody who just, in the 80s, for the younger folks listening out there, you watched a Tyson fight. It was one of the most entertaining things ever, and it was one of the shortest things ever, right? I mean, one fight, he fought Michael Spinks for the heavyweight title and knocked the guy out in 91 seconds. Knocked him down the first time with a body punch, which you almost never see. And Tyson just, you thought that this guy can never, ever be beat, that he was invincible. He never got hit, and one punch and he'd knock you out. And then loses to Buster Douglas in Japan, and then before you know it, arrested for rape of a beauty pageant member. And I don't know, there's some gray areas around that big time, which is why Tyson still kind of got like a second chance and a second life after that. But not to go too much into the woods, but you just think of all these people that could have been really, really great, greatest of all time, and then things go sideways, and then they go from being unbeatable to very, very human to somebody that, you know, in Tiger Woods' case, seriously needs some help. Anyway, Stephen A. Smith weighed in on this and doesn't hold back as usual. This is cut number 10. Go.
But all I know is this. You had this problem in 2017 when they found you asleep in your car on the side of the road. You had this problem in 2021 when you crashed into a tree and tumbled over and almost got yourself killed. You had this issue again last Friday. All 3 times you're inebriated and you're behind the wheel of a car. Now, I think it's safe to say, yo, Tiger Woods, you can afford car service. I think it's safe to assume the man can afford car service. Okay? What the hell are you doing getting behind the wheel of a car? Most of us would be in jail. Remember the second incident in 2021, they didn't charge him. They didn't make him take an alcohol, breathalyzer test. They didn't test his blood, any of that stuff. He was hospitalized. They left him alone. So he's got, in a lot of people's eyes in America, he's gotten away with a lot, and they're sick and tired of it.
He's right about that. I mean, yeah, most people would be in jail, and he's lucky he hasn't killed somebody already, right? I mean, 2 cars have now flipped over. This could have been a heck of a lot worse here in 2021 and 2017. Even back in 2000, I believe it was 9 or 10, his wife had to take a club to free him from a car after he was driving at 1 o'clock in the morning, just completely and totally like on Ambien, which they were taking Ambien, but boy, that'll knock you out in a hurry. And he was on just a suburban road in some sort of a gated community somewhere and ended up hitting a fire hydrant. And it just, again, it's just so sad to watch this, no question about it. Anyway, let's move on to other things going on in the world, important things, obviously, and that includes President Trump signing a voter integrity executive order today. Now, this is very interesting. This is to limit mail-in voting, and this order directs the Postal Service to only send mail-in ballots to an approved list of voters. So, in this case, it appears that Trump is saying that, and I think a lot of you would agree, probably most of you, that mail-in balloting is ripe for fraud. And the first person to make that point, a person of consequence, was, ding, 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 Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter, Democratic president, said that mail-in voting, very bad idea, because many things could be manipulated and you just don't know the chain of command or who's sending a ballot in the first place, ultimately. And I think it just leads to a lot of ambiguity, and with ambiguity becomes distrust. And 2016, people forget this, that Hillary Clinton claimed after the election that the Russians helped Donald Trump win the election. And legacy media, obviously Trump-Russia collusion and the whole special counsel, Robert Mueller, they would echo over and over again that, well, this election could have been hacked. It could have been stolen, right? Hillary Clinton literally said that you could do everything right and you could still have an election stolen from you. So YouGov does a poll of Democratic voters only in 2017, asking them, do you think the 2016 election was stolen by Donald Trump from Hillary Clinton? And 75% said yes. We hear a lot about 2020. A lot of Trump supporters saying that election was stolen. Well, they didn't start that little trend. That's certainly for sure. And unlike 2016, which wasn't during, COVID, 2020, under the darkness of COVID and all the things, we see now what COVID is doing, right? As far as fraud in places like California, Minnesota, Illinois, you could get away with a lot of things during COVID because so many people were locked down and locked in. It just makes you wonder. Atlanta, right? Fulton County, counting votes. Trump is up big. And then suddenly a pipe burst. And they suddenly had to stop the counting whatsoever. And they came back the next day, and then Biden made his comeback. People hear that stuff, and they say, that's not on the up and up. Or they see Pennsylvania. They see what could happen in places like Detroit, all the history of shady things going on during elections. And mail-in voting only leads to that even more. It should be paper ballots, absolutely. I'm not saying election day, because people have extenuating circumstances. We don't need early voting for 12 weeks, though. That's certainly for sure. And by mail, for that matter. That was more of a COVID thing. No more COVID. It's the easiest thing probably in the world to do. If you have, say, 2-3 weeks to vote, to go to your local polling place, show your ID, show you're a citizen, and cast your vote. It takes maybe 5 or 6 minutes. Anyway, I'm told that we have to go to break, so we're going to come back with so much more, including Pete Hegseth and Marco Rubio, tag team, destroying NATO for not doing a damn thing during this Iran war and sitting it out. Thanks, allies. This is Joe Concha. This is Concha at Night. Back with so much more in just a moment.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition.
Joe Concha.
Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Welcome, everybody. So, the U.S., everybody's so impatient with this war with Iran. And if you want to do the math on this, we are now 23 days into the war. Maybe 24. Okay. Point is that, Afghanistan went on for many, many, many years, as did Iraq, as did Vietnam, Korea War. It's been less than a month, folks, and everybody that may be panicking over this, I think your concern is misplaced. And as we saw today with the Dow going up 1,125 points, Strait of Hormuz seems to have a lot more commercial traffic. This is all good. And Iran appears reportedly wanting to make a deal here. So I have a feeling by the time we get to, say, tax day, maybe a little after that, April 15th, April 20th, we'll be having a much different conversation, and perhaps a past tense conversation about Iran and high gas prices. Anyway, NATO has been zero help. It's kind of funny. We have all these Arab countries that are more than willing to jump in and help us. But, well, that's not really the case with our friends in terms of France, in terms of Spain, in terms of England, while the UAE and Bahrain and Saudi Arabia all helping the U.S. against another Middle Eastern Arab state. The world is completely upside down, and we'll play for you what Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth had to say about that when we come back. This is Concha at Night. Back with so much more in just a moment.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. So, let's say we decided to pull our troops out of Europe because, well, we've been protecting them for many, many decades. And when we asked for them, hey, can you give us a little assistance with this whole Strait of Hormuz thing? Nobody lifted a finger. And England, the UK, they as well would not let us use some of their bases at the beginning of the war. What's going on, guys, in France? Well, they're consistent. I'll say that. They didn't want any part of this either. So why are we protecting these people anyway? I'm not only asking the question. Somebody with a little bit more pull than I, and 18 more jobs than I have, Marco Rubio. Here's what he had to say about this situation, and he sounded as serious as a tax audit. This is cut number 6. Go.
And I've been a big supporter of NATO. And one of the reasons why I've been a supporter of NATO is because I believe that these basing rights give us leverage and give us flexibility and operational capability all over the world. But if NATO is just about us defending Europe if they're attacked, but them denying us basing rights when we need them, that's not a very good arrangement. That's a hard one to stay engaged in and say this is good for the United States. So all of that's going to have to be re-examined. All of it's going to have to be re-examined.
All right. You know what? It's costing us a heck of a lot of money. And I don't think the Russians are marching into, Germany or, all these other places where we have some troops positioned. So why even bother? Seriously. I mean, Russia can't even get to Kyiv. In what now? 4 years since they went into Ukraine, thinking that would be a cakewalk, and there they are, stuck on the Eastern Front. So yeah, big waste of money. If NATO won't appreciate us, then well, why bother? As far as us deploying all these troops to protect them. Pete Hegseth had similar views, but says it in a Pete kind of way. This is cut number four. Cut number 4. Go.
And as far as NATO is concerned, that's a decision that will be left to the president. But I'll just say a lot has been laid bare. A lot has been shown to the world about what our allies would be willing to do for the United States of America when we undertake an effort of this scope on behalf of the free world. These are missiles that don't even range the United States of America. They range allies and others. And yet when we ask for additional assistance or simple access basing overflight, we get questions or roadblocks or hesitations. And the president's pointing out you don't have much of an alliance if you have countries that are not willing to stand with you when you need them. He's simply pointing that out, and ultimately it'll be his decision of what that looks like after this is completed.
All right, this will be very, very interesting moving forward. Meanwhile, President Trump just, you know what, at this point, he's at that stage. He's always kind of been at this stage, but now when any reporter asks a question, and the question isn't prepped for very well. In other words, you're going to get access to the President of the United States, and you have a question, you better have facts to back up what you may be implying or what you may be asking about in terms of examples of XYZ. And here's what I'm talking about here. Cut number 11, where, again, Trump basically forces this reporter to apologize for just not being prepared in a very big moment probably in this person's career. Cut number 11, go.
Apple.
With what? What did they threaten them with? BB guns? Or
well, that's
they don't have much left to threaten.
My question for you is, are you...
I don't know. I mean, what are they... You made a statement. What did they threaten them with? I don't know. Tell me, how did they threaten them?
Well, all I know is that they threatened them, sir.
What does that mean?
Fair enough.
They said something nasty?
Is the government in touch with these companies? Are you helping to backstop them?
You don't even know what the threat was. What was the threat? I haven't heard it. What was the threat? Did they say they're going to blow them up? They're going to hit them. They're not. You know what they're not going to do? They're not going to hit them with a nuclear weapon. Yeah.
So the premise of that, sorry, I got cut off a little bit in the beginning, was that apparently Iran is threatening U.S. tech companies, right? I guess through some sort of like cyber war. And this reporter just decides, okay, I'm going to ask this question. I'm going to try to corner the president into asking him, well, are you doing anything to backstop or support these these companies against threats against them? And Trump's like, what threats? What are they threatening him with? And the reporter could not answer the question. Again, where did you guys go to journalism school? You're in the Oval Office. You got the one question that, hey, you know what? Maybe it's a good one. Maybe it's the type of thing that goes viral. I'm not saying gotcha, but sometimes good questions don't necessarily have to be completely negative and completely hostile. And this guy clearly not ready for prime time. Meanwhile, somebody who'll be leaving the prime time of late night is Stephen Colbert. Thank God. Because, I don't know, this guy is just so predictable and so insufferable. And just every night, it's the same damn thing. Not just on his show, but then it's on Kimmel. Same thing. Bash Trump, Seth Meyers, bash Trump bad, fascism, authoritarianism, and save democracy by putting Democrats back in power. Here's Colbert on the No Kings protests this weekend, which were utter failures. I mean, obviously, all these signs are being shipped in. A lot of these people, it was proven they are being paid. And most of the people who aren't being paid are mainly grandmothers and grandfathers, and very, very white. So much for, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And again, I'll make this point till I'm blue in the face. I just followed a column on it today. You can't scream about no kings if you're the Democratic Party and all these people that go to these rallies when you gladly voted for Kamala Harris, who was installed as the Democratic nominee in 2024 without one vote from the public. Just like Hillary Clinton was installed in 2016. The DNC, there are literal emails showing this. The Democratic National Committee did everything it could to put the thumb on the scale for Hillary Clinton and make sure that Bernie Sanders was not going to win that nomination because a Democratic Socialist was not going to win an election. So they're supposed to be fair arbiters, the DNC, and they were proven not to be. And even the DNC chair at the time, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, with tremendous hair, I mean, best hair in Congress, no question, she had to resign because those emails were so damning. And even Joe Biden, 2020, people forget, he lost in Iowa by finishing 4th to Bernie and Pete Buttigieg and Elizabeth Warren. And then he finished 5th in New Hampshire. That was the second primary, going nowhere fast. And then suddenly the seas parted and all these candidates that were beating him decided to just drop out. And then he wins Super Tuesday and is on his way to the nomination. So it was almost like he was installed. And then we talked about 2024, Soviet-style Kamala, Joe Biden, brain turns to applesauce. He can't win. So let's install somebody without one vote in a primary from the public. And you're going to talk to me about no kings? You're going to talk to me about no kings after COVID and everything that went on? As far as the authoritarian stuff then, draconian lockdowns? Tim Walz is at the No Kings rally with Bruce friggin' Springsteen talking about no kings? The guy who created a snitch hotline in Minnesota that if you were seen outside your home with a mask or you had a party with more than 5 people, report on your neighbors and we'll make sure that we take care of it. That's king-like to me. So don't even start with this crap. But anyway, here's Stephen Colbert saying, no kings. It's a big, this is the thing we're going to look back on. These rallies that really changed the course of history for the Republic, otherwise known as the United States of America. This is cut number 9. Go.
There were protest signs, and they were just great. They came from Minnesota, and we said, oh, no, you don't. Does this ass make my country look small? No faux king way. The Third Reich. And Jimmy Kimmel has higher ratings than you. I like that one.
See, I liked it when these guys hated each other. I liked it when Leno and Letterman despised each other. And now these guys all root for each other because even though Colbert's on Team CBS, at least for another month before that show finally goes off the air, thank God, Lord have mercy. And Kimmel, they go on each other's shows and they're like best pals because, yeah, Kimmel's on Team ABC and Colbert's on Team CBS, but they're really on the same team, which is Democratic activists times 10. So they all kind of pat each other on the back for, again, not even finishing first. Like, oh, Kimmel has higher ratings. Not than Greg Gutfeld. He's never really mentioned in this conversation, is he, as far as late night battles? Because he is smoking him currently at this point, both Colbert and Kimmel, which is why Colbert is losing his show and why Kimmel absolutely should. But Disney gave him another contract. Again, if you want to figure that one out, please do write me at Joe Concha TV at the Twitter, DM me, or however you want to get in touch with me. Pretty easy to do. All right. Anyway, let's move on to what I think is just one of the better sound bites that we'll ever play on here because, again, Nancy Pelosi, who also was at the No Kings rallies and talks about no kings, she's now basically an election denier ahead of time, like forecasting an election that will be stolen, which used to be a big no-no to the Republic. As far as you can't talk about cheating in elections. I mean, after 2020, Trump said that the election was due to cheating, and that's a threat to our democracy. Well, Pelosi is now predicting that Republicans are literally going to alter vote totals in November by using technology and hacking voting machines. That is completely irresponsible. Here is Wall Street's finest, Nancy Pelosi, cut number 7. Go.
We always have concerns, but with this president and these Republicans who have no commitment to the rule of law and doing things the appropriate way, we're ready. We have 3 purposes now. 1 is to win the midterms. 2 is to make sure the elections are safe. And 3, to tell people what we will do when we win. and that is the mission. There's so many things that you can do to protect the election.
Yeah, we're good. I mean, that's the thing, right? You're going to use technology. We got to protect the election. Going to alter vote totals. Whoa. Any evidence to back that one up? Well, that interview was on MSNBC or MS Now, whatever it is, and of course was not challenged on this in any way, shape, or form. What evidence do you have that Republicans and Trump are going to use technology to change vote totals so they could win in November? No, she could say whatever she wants. She forgot goal number 4, which is to make another like $400 million in the stock market by making all these trades that make Gordon Gekko look like an amateur. Gee, how does she just know the timing to buy a stock and to dump a stock exactly at the right time? Unbelievable. Anyway, speaking of wonderful Congress people from the state of California, Eric Fang Swalwell, boy, this guy is hilarious because a couple of years ago he talked about how, well, let's put it this way. It's cut number 1, and this is Swalwell and his 2 different perspectives on the abuse of power when it comes to convicting Trump, which he wanted to do, and now he has to defend himself against an FBI investigation that ain't looking good for him right now because apparently he's running for governor in California where he doesn't, own a home. Kind of a big deal if you want to be the governor of California. Maybe this is why he's trailing so badly at this point. But anyway, this is cut number 1. Go.
This case is closed. The Bureau said over 10 years ago, all we did was help. But this effort to weaponize the FBI against the president's political enemy at a time that we are at war shows a distraction. It shows an obsession with going after the president's political opponents.
That we're going into the majority a year from now. We have every intention to do that, and so we will bring oversight, accountability. We will subpoena the Department of Justice, but also private actors who have done these drug deals with the administration, college campuses, entertainment companies, law firms. And so accountability is coming.
So accountability is coming unless it's coming for Eric Swalwell. Yeah, he's right now tied for 3rd in the California gubernatorial race, which is hilarious because you're a Democrat in California. You should be winning, right? Because the guys that are in first place and second place are Steve Hilton and Sheriff Chad Blanco, both Republicans. And again, the delicious irony that California has a law that says the top 2 finishers in a primary move on and everybody else is out. So this was done pretty much to ensure that a Democrat wins that kind of election, a governor's race. But now, the way the polls stand, it's going to be Hilton versus Blanco, Republican versus Republican, with no Democrat to choose from. What a ridiculous rule/law, but that's the way things are in California, where states like Florida and Ohio, you have election results the night of, because those states are run competently. California, it takes weeks sometimes to get the final tally on simple congressional races, because it is probably Minnesota, boy, it's a toss-up, the most corrupt state in the country, and the guy that's currently governor, Gavin Newsom, thinks he'll be the next president. Certainly not based on his record. That is certainly for sure. Anyway, I love this clip because it is just so, what's the word I'm looking for here? Precise, definitive. And this guy has no filter whatsoever. This is Stephen Miller talking about if you're a high-tax citizen in a certain part of the country, this is what you get compared to, say, your neighbors who probably shouldn't be here in the first place. This is cut number 16. Go.
Think about a working man in Chicago, a productive citizen. His sense of honor, his sense of decency compels him to work hard, follow the laws, pay his taxes. What do his taxes get him in Chicago? A park he can take his family to? Hell no. A school he can send his kids to? Not a chance. A police department that will protect him and his wife and his children? No way. So that man is forced to work for a government that at every turn is arrayed against him. In Democrat city after Democrat city, that's their vision for this country. That's what President Trump is fighting against every single day.
And that's Stephen Miller with Mark Levin on Life, Liberty, and Levin. And, I mean, that's so right. And it's the same thing with New York, by the way. And New Jersey, for that matter. paying all this money. I get the highest property taxes in the country if I'm in New Jersey or New York, with all these ridiculous taxes, congestion taxes, tolls keep going up, everything. And what do I get in return? Do I get better schools? Do I feel safer? Is the city cleaner? No, no, and no. That applies to New York, applies to Chicago, Seattle, Minneapolis. Pick your NFL city run by a Democrat. The taxes keep going up and the quality of life keeps going down, and that's why more and more people are moving to Florida, Texas, Idaho, Tennessee, South Carolina, Georgia, because the weather's better and you get more for your buck in every way, shape, or form. And that's why California, Illinois, and New York are losing electoral votes.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition.
Joe Concha.
Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Welcome back, everybody. So The View now saying, hey, maybe it's not a good idea to promote having children and raising a family in this country. What is going on? That train wreck is even more of a train wreck lately, which I thought was impossible. But here's Sonny Hostin just going off on, this whole thing about raising a family. It's just not a good idea because it's just too darn expensive. The person that gets paid 7 figures for these hot takes, cut number 5, go.
What is she? What? So my ultimate beef with this is that it wraps a woman's worth up in her ovaries.
Bottom line, if you're not paying my bills, you don't get to tell me what I do with my uterus.
I think it's just really reckless to be suggesting that people should have children when you now know in this country there's this affordability crisis, and for a 2-person household, a married household, you need over $400,000 for child care. Over $400,000. Most people don't make over $400,000. So she's advocating for people to be born into poverty, people not being able to feed those children, people not being able to educate those children, and people not being able to house those children.
So you heard it. Oh, that's good. You heard it from. Trust me, Matt. That's more than enough. So what they're responding to is this conservative activist named Isabel Brown, and she's young. She's Gen Z, and she had a message for her fellow Gen Z women, because more and more surveys are now showing that the least likely group in America to get married and have kids are Gen Z women. All right, so those are women basically 34 and younger. I think it's 18 to 34, if I'm right about that. Well, that's not a good thing, because as more and more people retired, if you don't have another generation eventually coming along to backfill jobs, for example, that is horrible for an economy, but more importantly from really a cultural perspective, from a happiness perspective. If the plan is to go through life and, have some cats and yell into social media all the time, that ain't a good thing, right? And I just think the most fulfilled people are people that have children and are married. And if that doesn't work for you, that's fine. But to go off and say you shouldn't have kids because you might not be able to afford it because of the affordability crisis under Trump, that is unhinged stuff. Anyway, back tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Until then, I got 2 words for you. Bye-bye.
In this 25th anniversary year of September 11th, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation continues to honor America's heroes. Heroes like Fire Lieutenant Michael Wells, who was inspired by 9/11 to serve his community. After 14 dedicated years of service, he lost his battle with occupational cancer, leaving behind his wife, Katie, and their 3 children. Tunnel to Towers honored Lieutenant Wells by paying off the family's mortgage in recognition of his sacrifices. Donate $11 monthly and amplify your impact with a car or land donation. Go to T2T.org.
LifeLock, how can I help?
The IRS said I filed my return,
but I haven't.
1 in 4 tax-paying Americans has paid the price of identity fraud.
What do I do?
My refund, though.
I'm freaking out.
Don't worry, I can fix this.
LifeLock fixes identity theft guaranteed and gets your money back with up to $3 million in coverage.
I'm so relieved.
No problem. I'll be with you every step of the way.
1 in 4 was a fraud-paying American. Not anymore. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.